profession is very interesting, especially if you're a community manager. The profession is known by different names in different countries. There are different laws that govern this profession. And to bring in some sort of clarity on this, I would like to invite Jeevan De Mello, who is one of our favorites, one of our supporters always, board member of Community Associations Institute and CEO of Zenesis Corp from UAE. Hello, Jeevan. Welcome back. I think you're on mute. You have to unmute yourself.
I've done that. Thank you very much, Harsha. So great. Glad to be back.
Yes. And we have all the way from Spain, we have Mr. Pepe Gutierrez, who is the CEO of Mega Fincas. And I'd like to welcome him too. Right now, I can see a beautiful building.
I think Pepe had to unmute himself. There he is.
There he is. Hello.
Pepe, unmute yourself. Unmute yourself. You are muted. There you are.
Great. So I'm going to hand over to Jeevan and Pepe, and we can't wait to learn more about your session. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you.
Just 1 second till I put our PowerPoint up. Harsha, I believe I can share my PowerPoint. Can you see my PowerPoint, Harsha? All right, excellent. So thank you very much to Harsha and the team for organizing this great event. I was very fortunate to be a part of the first event, and Pepe and I were very fortunate to be part of the second event that happened in Bangalore, which seemed so many years ago. It was only 2019, but it seems like ages, right, Pepe?
Was different life. Now it's a different normality. That's 2019 was the real life from us.
Exactly. So this session really is Pepe and I are going to be talking about the different laws and some best practices governing community management in different countries. Now, both Pepe and I have worked extensively traveling around the world, meeting different people, different professionals, community management professionals in different jurisdictions to understand a little bit about what they do, what we do, and how it is different. So we're going to go through this presentation to talk about that. But first, it is my pleasure to introduce all of you to my dear friend, Pepe Gutierrez, who is an anthropologist. He is an author, he's a speaker, he's an international consultant. He's got 2 masters, and I don't know, he keeps on studying. He never stops studying. He's got a master's in BI and data scientist. He'll talk a little more about that. He has managed over 186 buildings and communities. He's also a professor in the University of Burgos. He's an instructor for IREM, that's the Institute of Real Estate Management. Of course, he's a member of CAI, he's a CMCA. He's a co-founder of Mega Fincas, PH Consultants, and Administrapolis, and he is the guru in innovation and technology in community association management. So please welcome Pepe Gutierrez.
Thank you, Jeevan, for your introduction. Thank you. Now, do you want I introduce you, Jeevan?
Yes, please, if you'd like to.
Jeevan is like my brother. Then what I'm going to explain about him, he's an architect. He has designation of CMCI in United States, AMS, LSM, and PCAM. He's architect. He's author, speaker, international consultant, and lifelong learner. He's a former chief of customers and community officing in Emaar Properties Management, over 170 towers and 14,000 homes, and the more important thing, the Burj Khalifa, the tallest building in the world. He was the manager. In this moment, he's a consultant advisor for Nakheel and Meydan, and he's board member of CI USA, CI Middle East, board member of Rotary Club in Dubai, Rotary Club country trainer of UAE, and the more important thing, he's the father of the community management in all Eastern. Thank you, Jeevan.
Thank you very much, Pepe. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. And I'm very pleased to tell you that Pepe and I actually wrote a book together. We traveled around the world. It's a book in Spanish, Los Mejores Administradores de Edificios del Mundo. And it's all about the best community managers in the world. And we've covered about 19 Spanish-speaking countries in this beautiful book. We launched it in 2019 in the United States, and then across the world. And either Pepe has traveled to those countries or I've gone and traveled to this country. Sometimes we have both gone together to launch this book. So we travel a lot together, except last year. We didn't do much traveling. Exactly. So here we're going to be talking about community association management from a global perspective. It is a global profession, and we want to talk a little bit about that. So the first thing that I want to tell you is we come out with the definition of what is a community association. It's a non-profit, legally incorporated entity for a group of property owners living in a community, sharing the costs of maintenance and management of the community whilst complying with its agreed rules and those of the local authorities. And we found that this definition really incorporates any community associations anywhere in the world. So this, we believe, is the definite definition of a community association. Pepe.
When you speak about definition of an owners association, I remember very well one of my best friends many years ago. He told me, if you wish to know about a topic, you must write a book. That's what happened for me in 2013. I wrote a book of all the laws in the Spanish-speaking countries. At that moment was only for 15 countries. Really, it's 20 countries that we need to update, but we need to update for all the world, Jivan. And we try to understand exactly too about Europe. That is the laws in the 27 countries, because really here is only 16 countries. Because don't forget that in Europe, only condominiums, only homeowners association in the south of Europe. Normally it's not usual in the north of Europe. Then definition of an owners association is four very important pillars. Community living. I don't know if that is going to change or not, Jivan, with the pandemic, but I think the people love to be with another people. That's one of the more important pillars in an association. Always when there is an association, you have a shared common property. Because if not, it's not an association, it's something like privately. The best thing about the economy is economy of scale. Why? Because you use the money for all together, and the manager can use in the best way. And the last thing is democratic and collective decision making. Depends of each country. But what happened when I started many years ago trying to understand that one example in Spanish, we think that is exactly the same thing with the same name, but that's not true. I give an example. In Argentina, they call community association, they call consorcio. In Chile and in Spain, they call comunidad. In Mexico and Italy, they call condominio. Then it's different, depend of the word, depend of the country. That's in the Spanish-speaking area, but it's exactly the same if you are in the English-speaking countries. One example, years ago, I tried to understand how is the condominium in Australia. I didn't find. You know why? Because I was trying to find the wrong word. Because it's not condominium, it's a strata, body corporates, owners corporation. That's exactly the same what happened in Dubai, owners association, housing estate, in United States. Then same concept, different name, but same life for the community manager. About community manager, the first thing I wish to explain you is that we are not property managers. We are not facility managers. We are the best. We are community managers. You know why? Because we try to have very, very happiness customers. Then how we do that with different titles? It's exactly the same with the name of the community. Then we are Administrador de Comunidades, same in Chile. Administrador de Condominios, exactly the same in Mexico, and Amministratore Condominale in Italy. But don't forget that it's always exactly the same work, the same profession, but it's different small changes. In Australia, it's strata manager. And then data of, no, don't worry, Jivan, we can go ahead. Different data of owner association. When we wrote the book, Jivan and me, with the other authors, I can't believe it. I can't believe it that my dream is to be manager in Mexico. I know Mara is in the audience. You know why? Because they are a country with 12 million associations. Then the ratio is one community manager for every 8,000 association. The average in all the Latin American, it's around 8-10 association for each manager. In Spain, we have around 130, but you can see in Europe is 2 million condominium community association. In Brazil is 200,000. In United States, 342,000. In Japan, 6 million associations just for that country. I have the figures from Australia, 270, and 31 from New Zealand. You know, one of my dreams before I finished 2020 was to try to be in 100 countries, trying to know exactly how is this in all this country. I arrived only to the 95 in 2019 and 2020, not traveling, Jivan.
Thanks, Pepe. And just for on this slide, these are all in thousands. So when it says 342, it's 342,000. When it says 12,000, it's actually 1.2 million and so on. So they're all in thousands. This is based on a study that we did across the world. I just want to now quickly talk about the types of community associations that we have. So the first one we have is what we call the planned community, which is the single family homes, the townhomes, and the large master communities. And then we have something what we call the condominium. Now, this is not a very common name, at least in the Middle East and Asia, but it's very common in other parts of the world, which is residential units in a vertical building. They're also called apartments, though the word apartments in the United States has a different meaning. Then, of course, we have commercial. In commercial, we have freehold offices in a vertical building. Now, people forget about commercial a lot because they think we only look after residential communities. That's not true. We also look after commercial, but what we call freehold communities. And last but not the least is the mixed use. Now in Dubai, the UAE, Middle East, we have a lot of mixed use buildings, and mixed use buildings are typically buildings that have multiple different uses. So it has a residential component, it has a hotel, a retail. In the case of Burj Khalifa, which by the way is the most mixed up building in the world, it has 11 different uses, including an observatory tower, including the highest prayer room in the world, and so on and so forth. So it is pretty much a whole gamut of different communities that we manage as community association managers. Now, in community management itself, based on our studies, we realized that we have 6 areas of responsibilities. And a lot of people don't know this because people ask the question, what exactly do you do? And as Pepe said earlier, people often mix us up between community managers, property managers, facilities managers. You're the same. We are not the same. All right. We are all real estate managers, but there is a subtle difference between us. So here are the 6 areas of responsibility of community association managers, and that is operational, that we're talking about the day-to-day issues, committee meetings, administrative stuff, procurement. Then we have technical. The technical is the pure technical stuff, developing scopes of work, technical audits, the different type of maintenance regimes like the preventive, reactive, emergency, planned, replacement, so on and so forth. Then the social is probably the most misunderstood part of what we do, but I can tell you it's probably one of the most important parts of what we do. And that is all about customer care, the call center, community wellness programs, beautiful events that we have, communications, education, newsletter, so on and so forth. Then, of course, there's financial. We need money. Even though we are a non-profit entity, we still do need money to run our communities. So we're talking annual budgets, financial reports, invoicing, financial audits, so on and so forth. Compliance, very essential part of the governance that we do is looking after the community, make sure the rules and regulations are followed. We have got records. We have, the health, safety, environment things done. We comply with the rules, all the rules, the city, the state, and the federal rules. Last but not the least is the corporate part of our responsibility. When we talk about corporate, we're talking about us. That's us, our staff, ourselves, our continuous education, making sure we have all the different credentials to support us as a professional, protecting our brand, even getting more business. Now, because of the lack of time, we are only going to be talking about 3 areas today, but hopefully we will have another session, a much longer session at another time, where we'll talk about all those different areas. So we have looked across the world and we've looked at these 3 areas: operational, financial, and compliance. And this is what we have come out with, and Pepe will join me in this. The first one is annual meetings. Are they required or not? In Spain, it is yes. In the UAE at the moment, especially Dubai, it is no, because we have a new law that's come into place which does not require us to have annual meetings. In Bahrain, it is yes, you need to have meetings. In USA, it's yes. Colombia, it's yes. South Africa is yes. And Australia, it is yes. Pepe, board meetings?
The thing is, when we speak about Colombia, really we are talking about North America, Mexico, Central America, Caribbean, and South America. Then 90% of the answers are going to be exactly the same for all the Spanish-speaking countries. Then, if we speak about board meetings, it's exactly the same. All. If you see, the only exception is UAE with committees, not boards. But in all the other countries, we need board meetings. The only difference, Jivan, is how often. There is countries that you see every 6 months, every month, by law, or depends on every association, but it's always board meetings needed.
Absolutely. And now it comes to FM services. FM services, of course, the facilities management services, which are actually fixing things, mowing the lawn, cleaning the glass, all the different trades and services. Now, in some jurisdictions, you can be a community manager and delivering facility services. For example, in Spain, it's both accepted. In the USA, it's accepted, but depending on state by state. Colombia, it's both accepted. South Africa, yes. But in the UAE, it's not accepted. You cannot be a community manager and a facilities manager at the same time. Same thing in Bahrain. You can only do it by a contract or subcontracting out or contracting out. And in Australia, yes, you can, but with some restrictions. Now, again, it might change from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, but we're just talking about in general. Now we come to the financial part, and all of them, as you can see, we must have an annual budget. If you don't have an annual budget, you don't have money. So obviously you have to have. But who is it approved by, Pepe?
Depends on the countries. In the Spanish-speaking countries, what happens is the board of directors of the committee, they prepare a draft, but really who approve when it started is in the AGM, in the annual general meeting, or sometimes in extraordinary general meeting. That's exactly the same in Spain, Bahrain, in Colombia, in South Africa, and in Australia. In UAE is RERA who approved the budget. And then what happened in the Spanish-speaking countries is that's the more important thing in one situation like now. No annual general meetings, no budgets, no extra works. We maintain exactly the same figures from 2020, and we don't know what is going to happen. That needs to be changed.
Right. So in the annual audit, as everybody, we have to do in the UAE, I know that we have to do audits. We can't get away without having an audit. But I was surprised to learn that in Spain, it is not mandatory to do an audit. It's not mandatory. And in Dubai and in Bahrain, you need to do an audit by approved authorized auditors only. In the USA, any auditor can do it. In Colombia, it's only mandatory for communities, for commercial associations, right? South Africa, you must do it. And in Australia, it's a hybrid. Some states, require it. Some states leave it up to the owners. So it's very interesting how we all run our different businesses, but they have different requirement. And now reserve fund, Pepe.
Okay, we just changed the law 1 year ago. Before it was 5% of the annual general budget. Now it's 10%. But this 10% is just one time. You don't need to increase every year. Then at the end, it's not too much. It's too low to do like very extra repairs. In Colombia, it's different. It's 1% in every payment from the owners to the association. Majority of the Spanish-speaking countries reserve fund. It's in the governing documents. It's not by law. Then we're talking here by law, but we need to know that in some countries, they approve a requirement to pay like 5 to 10% of the different payments just for reserve fund. I know that the countries like USA, you need to do a special reserve fund statement to know exactly how to do it, and then that helps to you to know exactly how much money is for the ordinary general budget and how much is for the reserve fund.
Absolutely. And in UAE and a lot of other places, of course, doing a reserve fund study has become very crucial. And at least in the UAE and Bahrain, you cannot do a reserve fund study just like that. You need to have specialists. In Bahrain at this point. They're still allowing internally, but I know because I'm involved in Bahrain that it will soon have to be done by specialists. And coming to the last one here, but definitely not the least, is the service charge invoices. Now in Spain, it is monthly or 4 times a year. In the EU, it's 4 times a year. Bahrain is 4 times a year. USA is, again, it's a choice, annual. But in Colombia, it has to be monthly. In South Africa, it has to be monthly. And Australia, it is 4 times a year. So we can see that in different parts of the world, it's the same industry, same business, the same pain that we all go through. But the way that it's done is a little bit different from everyone else. And I think that is the, yes, we have the compliance portion, Pepe.
Okay, one thing here I did a mistake because the horizontal community law is not from 1961. That's the year when I born. It's from 1960 is when the law born, 1 year before me. All the other information is exactly the same, but I wish you know that if we check the laws in all the Spanish-speaking countries, we have the law, I think that's in Colombia, with more than 12,000 words in the law. But we have like Argentina with only 1,700 or Guatemala with 1,800. Then that's give you the point of view of how is the law. Is depending of the governing documents, or it's a law that everything is included in there. We have in Dubai from 2019 I think is one of the newest laws in the world. We have Bahrain 2017. US depend on the state. Then depend. I know that Florida, California, they just pass a new law. South Africa 2008, and Australia depends of the regulation of every strata law.
Absolutely. And in governing documents now, of course, every jurisdiction will have governing documents. And these governing documents are essentially the documents that govern the community and what we have to refer to manage our communities better. So we have the law, they're all different names, but essentially the same things. Like in Spain, it's statutes, community rules. UAE, we call it Master Community Declaration. It used to be called Jointly Owned Property Declaration. Now it's changed. In Bahrain, it's also Master Community Declaration, but they have joint owned property bylaws. They have constitutions. In the United States, they have articles of association, something called CCNRs. which is covenants, something, and restriction. I forget the C in the middle. And then we have Colombia, they call it the regulation documents. Then we have the Memorandum of Incorporation, the MOI, in South Africa. In Australia, of course, it has governing documents and bylaws. So essentially, all jurisdictions have some sort of governing laws and documents. They're just called differently. Pepe?
The notice of violation, I think in majority of the countries are more or less exactly the same, because the first step is you need authorization from the community, from the association. Second step, like in Spain, you need authorization from the authorities, like local authorities, depend on the authorities. In Spain, if you don't have both, it's not legal. What are you doing? You know, I remember very well during the pandemic, many people tried to do an extension because nobody is going to control what he's doing, and nobody from the police is going to check exactly what are you doing. Then same steps, different speed, and same reality.
So Pepe, we have run out of time. Time flies when we're having a lot of fun, and Pepe and I always have a lot of fun talking about something that we really enjoy. So we want to thank you for being a great audience. We're going to call Harsha back to end the session and tell you some exciting stuff, what's happening next. And Pepe is going to talk about, this is our contact information if you want to get in touch. Harsha?
Yes, hello everybody. Hi Jeevan, hi Pepe. That was an amazing session. I'm not a community manager, but it did give me a lot of clarity on the different laws and different terms that are used for community managers globally. So thank you so much.